The glass doors of Lumiere Bistro swung open, and the afternoon light fractured across polished marble floors. Maya Thompson stepped inside, her sensible flats clicking softly against stone. The restaurant hummed with the delicate symphony of wealth, crystal clinking against china, hushed laughter, the whisper of linen napkins being smoothed across laps. Then the hum stopped. Conversations didn't end abruptly. They tapered, like someone had turned down the volume dial on the entire room. Forks paused mid-air. A woman in pearls glanced over her wineglass, then quickly away. Maya had felt this silence before, the kind that pressed against your skin like a physical thing. She walked toward the host stand, shoulders back, purse tucked under one arm. Her navy blouse was pressed, her slacks clean and professional. She looked like half the patrons here, but she wasn't half the patrons here. A young waitress emerged from behind a marble column, blonde hair pulled into a sleek ponytail, smile painted on like armor. Her name tag read Chelsea. She stopped 3 feet away, eyes scanning Maya from head to toe. An assessment that took 2 seconds but communicated everything. "Can I help you?" Chelsea's voice was bright, customer service perfect, but her body language told a different story. Arms crossed loosely, weight shifted back. Distance maintained. "Table for 1, please," Maya said evenly. Chelsea's smile tightened. "Do you have a reservation?" "No, but I see empty tables." "Those are reserved." Chelsea gestured vaguely toward the dining room, where at least 4 tables sat conspicuously empty. Place settings gleaming under pendant lights. Maya met her gaze. "All of them?" "It's a busy day." Chelsea's tone carried the faintest edge of condescension, the kind that lives in pauses and inflection rather than words. She glanced toward the bar, where a man in a manager's shirt scrolled through his phone, deliberately engrossed. Maya's fingers tightened around her purse strap. "Then I'll wait." "Actually—" Chelsea leaned in slightly, voice dropping to a stage whisper loud enough for the nearest table to hear. "There's a really great diner about 6 blocks down. Much more comfortable, less formal, you know. I think you'd really like it there." The nearest couple, silver-haired, dressed in cashmere, stared intently at their dessert plates. Maya didn't move. "I'd like to eat here." Chelsea's laugh came out light and musical, but her eyes were flint. "Look, we have standards here. Dress code, ambiance. Maybe you didn't notice, but this isn't really that kind of place." She gestured at Maya's outfit, with a delicate, dismissive flick of her wrist. Above them, mounted discreetly in the corner where crown molding met ceiling, a small black dome caught the light. The security camera's lens reflected the entire scene in miniature. Chelsea's smirk, Maya's stillness, the turning heads of patrons pretending not to watch. Maya's voice remained steady, quiet. "What kind of place is it?" Chelsea's smile never wavered. "The kind that values a certain clientele." The silence in the restaurant now felt like a held breath. 3 hours earlier, Maya Thompson had sat in her home office, surrounded by the organized chaos of her empire. Contracts covered her desk in neat stacks. Property deeds lined the shelf behind her. 5 commercial buildings, all prime downtown real estate, all quietly acquired over 2 decades of relentless work. She signed the last document with her fountain pen, then leaned back in her chair. 52 years old, reading glasses perched on her nose, grey threading through her natural hair. She looked like someone's aunt. She was a millionaire. Her office was modest. IKEA furniture, framed photos of her daughter, a Boston fern struggling in the corner despite her best efforts. The wealth didn't show here. That was intentional. Maya had learned early that invisibility was sometimes an advantage. People revealed themselves when they thought you didn't matter. Her phone buzzed. A reminder. Anonymous inspection, Lumiere Bistro, 2 p.m. Maya smiled faintly. She'd bought the building 6 months ago. A gorgeous historic property with restaurant space on the ground floor, offices above. The lease agreement with Lumiere Bistro's operators had been standard, professional. handled entirely through her property management company. She'd never met the restaurant owners face to face, never visited the establishment. That was the point. She stood and moved to her bedroom, selecting a simple navy blouse and dark slacks from her closet. No jewelry beyond her watch. No designer labels. She wanted to blend in, to see how the restaurant operated when no one knew the landlord was watching. On her dresser sat a framed photograph, her father in his janitor's uniform, smiling despite the exhaustion etched around his eyes. Samuel Thompson had worked until his body gave out at 67, still mopping office floors in buildings he'd never owned. At his funeral, Maya had made a promise over his casket. She'd own the buildings. She'd never forget what it felt like to be invisible. Her daughter, Nicole, had asked her once, "Mom, why do you keep doing these inspections?" "You have property managers for this." Maya had touched the photo frame. "Because your grandfather taught me something important. Character shows in how you treat people who can't help you. I need to know who I'm doing business with." Now, checking her reflection one last time, Maya grabbed her purse and car keys. She looked ordinary, forgettable, exactly as planned. She had no idea she was about to become unforgettable. The drive downtown took 20 minutes. She parked on a side street, fed the meter, and walked 3 blocks to Lumiere Bistro. The building was beautiful. Red brick, arched windows, her building, though no one here knew it. The restaurant sign gleamed in brushed gold. Through the windows she could see elegantly dressed diners, white tablecloths, the warm glow of expensive ambiance. She'd read the online reviews. 4.5 stars. Praised for its French-inspired cuisine, impeccable service, romantic atmosphere. One review had mentioned the staff was attentive to the right kind of customer, which she'd found oddly phrased but dismissed. Now, standing outside, Maya straightened her blouse and took a breath. Just a normal customer, anonymous, observing. She pushed open the door. Chelsea's eyes hardened when Maya didn't leave. "I'm going to have to ask you to go. I'd like to speak to the manager." Maya's voice remained level, but something in her tone made Chelsea's smile falter for half a second. "The manager is busy. Then I'll wait." A man approached from the bar, mid-30s, pressed white shirt, manager's name tag reading Derek. He moved with the casual authority of someone who'd handled difficult situations before, but his eyes, when they landed on Maya, held the same calculation as Chelsea's. "Is there a problem?" Derek asked, directing the question to Chelsea, not Maya. "This woman doesn't have a reservation," Chelsea said, the word woman carrying subtle emphasis. "And I explained we're fully booked." Derek nodded slowly, hands in his pockets, the picture of polite regret. "I'm sorry, ma'am. As my staff explained, we're at capacity." Maya gestured toward the empty tables. "Those are available." "Reserved," Derek said smoothly. "All of them? For the next 2 hours?" Derek's smile was practiced. "It's Saturday afternoon. Our busiest time." It was Wednesday. Maya felt heat rise in her chest, not surprise, but the dull, familiar burn of recognition. She'd felt this before. In banks where loan officers suddenly found problems with her credit. In luxury stores where security followed her between racks. In spaces that existed to serve the public, but had invisible rules about who the public included. "I'd like to make a reservation then," Maya said. "For next week." Chelsea glanced at Derek. He pulled out a tablet, made a show of scrolling through it. "Unfortunately, we're booked solid for the next month." "A month? We're very popular." Derek's tone was final, dismissive. Conversation over. Maya stood her ground. Around them, the restaurant had resumed its performance of normalcy, but she could feel eyes on her back. The couple in cashmere whispered. A waiter paused mid-pour, watching. "I find that hard to believe," Maya said quietly. Chelsea's professional veneer cracked. Her voice rose intentionally loud. "Look, I don't know what you're trying to prove, but this is a nice restaurant. We have standards, dress codes, expectations. Maybe you're used to places that are more casual, but here we cater to a specific type of guest." "What type is that?" Maya asked. "The type that belongs." Chelsea's smile was vicious now, all pretense abandoned. She was performing for her manager, for the watching diners, asserting dominance in the only way she knew how. Derek placed a hand on Chelsea's shoulder, a gesture that looked supportive but carried warning. What my staff means is that we value our atmosphere very carefully. We've built a reputation. Sometimes certain guests are better suited to other establishments. Maya's hands trembled. She forced them still. I'm a paying customer. You're disrupting our other guests, Derek said flatly. His eyes flicked toward the door. I'm going to have to ask you to leave now. The ultimatum hung in the air. Chelsea crossed her arms, victorious. Derek's expression was stone. Maya wanted to scream. Wanted to tell them exactly who she was, who owned the floor beneath their feet. But something stopped her. Her father's voice in her memory. Don't react in anger, document, then dismantle. She took a breath. I'd like to file a formal complaint. With the owner. Chelsea actually laughed. Bright, tinkling, cruel. The owner doesn't deal with complaints from people like you. Trust me, the words landed like a slap. People like you. 4 words that said everything. Maya turned toward the door. Behind her she heard Chelsea's voice. Quieter now, but still audible. Some people just don't understand class. Maya walked out into bright afternoon sunlight, the glass door closing behind her with a soft, expensive click. Above the entrance, another security camera stared down from its mount, lens dark and patient. She crossed the street, climbed into her car, and sat. Her hands shook on the steering wheel. Her breath came shallow and fast. Not shock. She'd lived 52 years in America, lived 30 years building a business as a black woman. This wasn't shock. This was rage, cold and clarifying. Maya sat in her car for 10 minutes before her hands stopped shaking. The street outside was quiet. Boutique shops, a coffee house, pedestrians walking dogs in the fading afternoon light. Normal life continuing while her pulse hammered in her ears. She stared at the restaurant's facade through her windshield. The gold sign. The elegant windows. Her building. Her property. And inside, people who just humiliated her so casually, so publicly, because they believed she had no power. The silence inside the car felt heavy, pressing. Maya closed her eyes and breathed. 1, 2, 3. Her phone buzzed in her purse. She ignored it. Right now, in this moment, she needed to sit with the feeling, the humiliation, the anger, the bitter familiarity of it all. She needed to remember why this mattered. When she was younger, maybe 30, working 2 jobs and taking night classes in real estate investment. A property manager had told her, "You've got potential, but you need to accept that some doors stay closed for people like you." That's just reality. She'd proved him wrong, quietly, methodically. She'd bought the building he managed and fired him the same day. Her father's words echoed, "Don't react in anger. Document, then dismantle." Maya opened her eyes. The rage was still there, but now it had direction, purpose. She pulled out her phone and called her property manager. "James Chen." He answered on the second ring. "James, I need the security footage from Lumiere Bistro. Today's date between 2 and 3 p.m. A pause. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's about to be." Her voice was steady now, all emotion locked behind practicality. "I also need their lease agreement, complete copy, and any documentation of our correspondence with their management." "Maya, what happened?" "Just get me the footage. Tonight, if possible." She hung up, started the car, drove home with the radio off, the silence somehow louder than any music. That evening she sat at her desk and waited. Outside, the sun set in shades of burnt orange. Her daughter called. Maya sent it to voicemail. Right now she needed focus. At 8 p.m. her email chimed. James had delivered. The security footage came in a compressed file, along with scanned documents. Lease agreement, correspondence, financial records. Maya opened the video player, pressed play, and watched herself get erased. The footage played on a loop in Maya's mind long after she closed the laptop. She sat in darkness, her office illuminated only by the desk lamp's circle of light, and let herself remember, 23 years ago, she'd stood in an office building lobby at 2 a.m., mop in hand, pregnant and terrified. Her husband had left 6 months earlier. Her father worked beside her, teaching her the roots, the chemicals, the rhythm of invisible labor. "You're better than this," he'd said one night, emptying a trash bin. "We all are." "Dad," she'd replied. He'd paused, looked at her with those tired eyes. "Then you be the one who gets out. You build something they can't take away." Samuel Thompson died of a heart attack on his 67th birthday, cleaning the executive bathroom of a law firm. The partners sent flowers. None of them remembered his name. Maya had stood at his funeral 8 months pregnant and made her promise. She'd own the buildings. Every single one her father had cleaned if possible. She'd hold the power, and she'd never forget where she came from. The journey had been brutal. She worked as a janitor for 5 more years while studying real estate at community college, saved every penny, lived in a studio apartment with her daughter, Nicole teaching the girl to fall, asleep to the sound of typing as Maya drafted business plans after midnight shifts. Her first property was a disaster, a small retail space with water damage and a tenant who refused to pay rent. She fixed the roof herself, YouTube videos playing on her phone while she patched leaks. She negotiated, learned, scraped through. She bought her second property 3 years later, then a third, fourth, fifth. By her 50th birthday, she owned 5 commercial buildings in prime downtown locations, worth millions, managed quietly through her LLC, Thompson Property Holdings. She attended investor meetings in simple clothes, spoke little, and let people underestimate her. Her daughter, now 22 with a business degree, had asked her once, "Mum, when are you going to stop?" "You've made it." Maya had touched her father's photo. "I'll stop when I'm sure no one can erase me." But that wasn't entirely true. Maya knew she'd never stop, because the invisibility she'd learned as a janitor had become her weapon. She conducted random inspections of her properties, always anonymous, always watching. She wanted to see how her tenants operated when they thought no one important was looking. She'd caught wage theft, discrimination, health code violations, and she'd ended leases swiftly without mercy because she remembered what it felt like to be powerless. Lumiere Bistro was her newest acquisition, the building purchased just 6 months ago. The lease with the restaurant operators had been handled entirely through James. Standard terms, fair rent, clear expectations, including explicit non-discrimination clauses that Maya insisted on in every contract. She'd planned to visit eventually, but life got busy. Until today, when she'd decided on a spontaneous inspection. Now sitting in her dark office, Maya opened the file cabinet and pulled out the Lumiere lease. She read through it with the careful attention of someone who'd learned contract law the hard way. There, page 7, the non-discrimination clause. Explicit language about equal treatment of customers, regardless of race, gender, or background. Violation grounds for immediate lease termination. And there, page 11, tenant obligations regarding property maintenance and adherence to all local and federal regulations. Maya made notes. Then she opened her laptop again and watched the security footage one more time. Chelsea's laugh. Derek's dismissal. The turning heads of customers who'd witnessed everything and said nothing. She forwarded the video to her attorney with a simple message, "Need to discuss, tomorrow morning." Then she sat back and thought about her father. How he'd taught her patience. How he'd told her that revenge was never about anger. It was about precision. Maya smiled in the darkness. She wasn't angry anymore. She was ready. The next morning, Maya's attorney, David Roth, called at 9 a.m. sharp. His voice carried the careful neutrality of someone who'd seen the footage and knew exactly what it meant. "This is clear discrimination," he said. "Textbook case. The lease termination clause applies. What's the process?" Maya asked, already pulling up documents on her screen. We draft a notice of violation. Cite the non-discrimination clause. Give them 72 hours to respond or vacate. David paused. But Maya, you should know they'll fight this. They have a 5-year lease with 3 years remaining. They'll claim the footage is out of context, that it's a misunderstanding, that you're abusing your power as landlord. Let them claim it. It could get messy, public. Maya thought of Chelsea's laugh. Good, she called James next. I need everything on Lumiere Bistro. Financial records, maintenance requests, any complaints filed against them. Everything. On it, James said. Then carefully, Maya, are you sure about this? This could blow back. I'm sure. For the next 3 hours, Maya and James combed through records. What they found made her anger crystallize into something sharper. Lumiere Bistro had violated lease terms multiple times. Unauthorized renovations. They'd installed new lighting fixtures without approval, altered the kitchen ventilation system, subletting part of the storage space to a catering company without permission. All grounds for lease violation. But the worst discovery came from the payment records. James pulled up reservation data, public information they'd posted on their website for transparency. Maya cross-referenced it with reviews, with social media posts from customers. A pattern emerged. Customers with traditionally black names, Jamal, Keisha, Tamika, reported being told the restaurant was fully booked despite availability. Several mentioned being quoted higher prices for private events. 3 reviews, buried deep in the comments, explicitly mentioned feeling discriminated against by a blonde waitress and a dismissive manager. Maya screenshotted everything, compiled it into a folder, sent it to David with a note. Additional evidence. This isn't isolated. Then she made a decision. She opened the security footage file again and watched not just her own experience, but the hours surrounding it. James had sent her the full day's recording. At 11 a.m., a black couple in their 30s had entered. Chelsea had told them there was a 45-minute wait. They'd left. 3 minutes later, a white couple arrived without a reservation. Chelsea seated them immediately. At 1 p.m., an elderly black man asked about lunch specials. Derek had quoted prices 15% higher than the menu listed. The man had politely left. At 2:30, after Maya's departure, a young black woman in a business suit tried to order takeout. Chelsea had told her the kitchen was closed. It wasn't. Maya's hands clenched into fists. This wasn't just about her. This was systematic, deliberate, a pattern of erasure happening in her building, on her property, in her father's memory. She called David back. I want to file a formal discrimination complaint with the state. Not just terminate the lease, I want this on record. That's a bold move. They made it easy. Maya's voice was cold. They documented their own discrimination. They just didn't know who was watching. That evening, Maya sat with Nicole in her living room. Her daughter, home from graduate school for the week, listened as Maya explained everything. When the story finished, Nicole was quiet for a long moment. Mom, she finally said, are you ready for what comes next? They're going to make this ugly. Maya looked at her father's photo on the mantel. They already made it ugly, so I'm just making it visible. She drafted an email to Derek and the restaurant's registered owner, a man named Marcus Webb, who apparently handled operations from a distance, professional, clinical, citing lease violations, attaching documentation, providing the required 72-hour notice. She didn't mention the discrimination yet. That would come later, in a way they wouldn't expect. Before hitting send, Maya watched the security footage one final time, watched Chelsea's smirk, watched Derek's calculated dismissal, watched herself walk out alone, humiliated in her own building. Then she watched the camera itself, steady, silent, recording everything. The truth in pixels and timestamps. Her father had taught her to be invisible when necessary, but he'd also taught her that invisibility was only powerful if you knew when to reveal yourself. Maya pressed send. Maya returned to Lumiere Bistro exactly 70 hours after sending the email. This time she wasn't alone. David Roth walked beside her, leather briefcase in hand, every inch the attorney. James Chen followed 2 steps behind, tablet ready, documentation loaded. The lunch crowd was thin, a Tuesday afternoon lull. Chelsea stood at the host stand, scrolling through her phone. When the door chimed, she glanced up. Her eyes widened slightly, recognition flickering, but she recovered quickly. "Welcome to Lumiere," Chelsea said, smile automatic. "Do you have a—" She stopped, looked at Maya more carefully. Something in the stillness between them made her pause. "Table for 3, Maya said evenly. Chelsea's jaw tightened. "Let me check availability." She made a show of consulting the reservation system, though her hands trembled slightly on the tablet. "We have a table by the kitchen." "We'll take the window booth," David said, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. Chelsea's eyes darted toward the back office. "That's reserved." "It's empty," James observed. Derek emerged from the kitchen, alerted by some invisible signal. When he saw Maya, his expression shifted. Confusion, then dawning recognition, then something harder. "Can I help you?" Maya pulled a business card from her purse and placed it on the host stand. Thompson Property Holdings. Owner and CEO, her name in raised lettering. The color drained from Chelsea's face. Derek picked up the card, read it twice. "You're the landlord?" "I am." Maya's voice was calm, almost pleasant. "And you received my notice of violation, so you know why I'm here. That email was—" Derek's professional composure cracked. "That was some kind of mistake. A misunderstanding." "Was the security footage a misunderstanding?" David asked mildly. Chelsea's breath came faster. "Security footage?" Maya met her eyes. "From last week. When you told me I didn't belong here. When you suggested I'd be more comfortable at a diner. When you laughed and said the owner doesn't deal with complaints from people like me." Each phrase landed quietly, precisely. "All on camera, time-stamped, documented." Derek's face went pale. "Ms. Thompson, if you'd known I owned the building, you would have treated me differently." Maya's tone remained steady. "That's exactly the problem." Chelsea found her voice defensive now. "We treat all our customers with respect. If you felt uncomfortable, that's unfortunate, but I have 3 other incidents from the same day," James interrupted, pulling up his tablet. 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 2:30 p.m., all involving black customers. All involving discriminatory treatment. "Would you like to see?" The silence stretched. A couple at a nearby table watched openly now, lunch forgotten. Derek swallowed hard. "Look, we can discuss this. There's no need for legal action. We're willing to work something out." "Are you?" Maya asked. She gestured toward the empty booth by the window. "Then let's sit, talk like civilized people." Derek nodded quickly, desperate. "Of course." "Chelsea, seat them." Chelsea moved mechanically, grabbing menus, leading them across the restaurant. Maya walked past tables where customers whispered, past the marble floors she owned, past the pendant lights and polished surfaces that existed because she allowed them to. They sat. David and James flanked Maya like bookends. Derek slid into the opposite side, Chelsea standing awkwardly beside him until he waved her away. She retreated but didn't leave, hovering near the bar. "We can fix this," Derek said, leaning forward. "Whatever violations you think we committed, think." David opened his briefcase, pulled out a folder. "Unauthorized renovations. Subletting without permission. Overcharging customers, specifically black customers for reservations and private events. And a clear pattern of racial discrimination documented across multiple dates." He slid the folder across the table. "These aren't allegations. They're facts." Derek didn't open it. "We have a lease. 3 years remaining." "You had a lease," Maya corrected. "You violated it. Multiple times. The non-discrimination clause alone is grounds for immediate termination. We'll fight this." Derek's voice hardened. "You can't just throw us out because of some perceived slight." Perceived. Maya let the word hang. Is that what we're calling it? Chelsea appeared at the table, emboldened by Derek's defiance. This is harassment. You're abusing your power as landlord because you're angry about a simple miscommunication. Maya looked at her directly. What was miscommunicated when you told me I'd be more comfortable at a diner? Chelsea's mouth opened, closed. I was just trying to suggest alternatives. Based on what criteria? James asked. No answer. David checked his watch. You have 31 hours left on the notice period. After that, we file eviction proceedings and submit the discrimination complaint to the State Civil Rights Commission. Derek's facade cracked. You'll destroy our business over this? Maya leaned forward slightly. You destroyed your business. I'm just enforcing the consequences. She stood, David and James rising with her. 31 hours. I suggest you use them wisely. As they walked toward the exit, Maya heard Chelsea's voice behind them, sharp with barely controlled panic. She can't do this. She can't just... Derek's response was too quiet to hear, but his tone carried defeat. Maya pushed through the glass doors into afternoon sunlight. Behind her, through the window, she could see Derek slumped in the booth, head in his hands. Chelsea paced near the bar, phone pressed to her ear. That went well, James said dryly. Maya didn't smile. This was only the beginning. By that evening, the counterattack began. Maya was reviewing documents at home when Nicole burst through the front door, phone in hand. Mom, you need to see this. She held up her screen. Facebook. A post from Lumiere Bistro's official page, already shared 200 times. We're heartbroken to announce that our restaurant is under attack by a vindictive landlord who's using her power to destroy a small family business. After one customer complained about our seating policy, she's trying to evict us, despite our valid lease, simply because she can. This is abuse of power, plain and simple. We've served this community with love and dedication for 3 years. Please help us fight back. Save Lumiere, small business matters. The comments flooded in. Support, outrage, stories of other landlords abusing power. The post painted Maya as a bully, them as victims. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from James. Have you seen social media? Then another from David. Don't respond. Let me handle this. But the damage was spreading. Twitter picked it up. Local food bloggers shared the post with sympathetic commentary. By 9 p.m., a local news outlet had published a brief article. Restaurant faces eviction after customer complaint. Owners cry foul. Maya sat on her couch, watching her phone light up with notifications. The story was spinning away from truth, warping into a narrative she couldn't control. Chelsea and Derek had gotten ahead of it, framed themselves as victims before Maya could speak. Nicole sat beside her, reading through comments. Mom, some of these people are vicious. They're calling you everything. Maya's hands tightened around her phone. She thought of the security footage, the evidence, the truth sitting in files on her computer. But truth didn't matter if no one heard it. Her phone rang. David, don't engage, he said immediately. This is a PR stunt. They're trying to pressure you into backing down. It's working, Maya said quietly. They're controlling the narrative. Then we change it. But carefully, strategically. David paused. Maya, I know someone. A civil rights attorney, Maria Gonzalez. She specializes in discrimination cases and knows how to handle media. Let me bring her in. Maya closed her eyes, felt the weight of her father's photo on the mantel, watching. Do it. She hung up and opened the restaurant's Facebook post again. Read through the comments. So many people defending Lumiere, calling her greedy, power-hungry, vindictive. They didn't know. Couldn't see what she'd seen, felt what she'd felt. One comment stood out, chilling in its assumption. She probably deserved whatever happened. These landlords always play the victim card. Maya set down her phone, walked to the window. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, streetlights casting long shadows. Normal life, normal evening. While online, her character was being assassinated by people who knew nothing about her. Nicole appeared beside her. What are you going to do? Maya touched the glass cool against her palm. I'm going to show them the truth, all of it. Not through arguments or statements. She turned to her daughter. Through evidence. Through the footage. Through every documented incident. When it matters most. Maya's reflection in the window looked tired, older. But her eyes were steel. They want a fight. They'll get one. Just not the one they're expecting. Her phone buzzed again. Another news alert. Another share. The story growing, mutating, becoming something she barely recognized. Maya took a breath. Tomorrow she'd meet with Maria Gonzalez. Tomorrow she'd start the real battle. Tonight she'd sit with the weight of being called vindictive for demanding dignity. The next morning brought consequences Maya hadn't anticipated. She woke to an email from a potential business partner withdrawing from a property deal. No explanation beyond. Due to recent public concerns, by noon, 2 more cancellations arrived. A tenant in one of her other buildings requested a meeting to discuss concerns. Her property management company's office line rang constantly, reporters, mostly asking for comment. Maya sat in her office, door closed, and felt the isolation settle like fog. This was how it worked, she realized. You spoke up, and the world decided you were the problem, not the discrimination, not the cruelty. You for refusing to accept it quietly. Her phone buzzed. A text from an old friend. Hey, saw the news. That restaurant situation sounds complicated. Hope you're being fair. The word cut deeper than insults. Nicole knocked softly before entering. There's a reporter outside. From Channel 7, she wants a statement. Tell her no comment. Mom, maybe you should... No. Maya's voice came out sharper than intended. She softened. Not yet. Not like this. After Nicole left, Maya sat alone in the silence. The office felt smaller somehow, walls pressing in. She opened her laptop, pulled up the security footage again, watched herself get dismissed, erased, humiliated. The evidence was irrefutable, so why did she feel like she was losing? Her father's photo sat on the desk. She picked it up, traced his smile with her thumb. You never told me it would be like this, she whispered. That doing the right thing would make you the villain. But that wasn't true. He had told her. In every story about standing up to unfair supervisors, in every quiet moment, when he'd endured disrespect because fighting back meant losing his job. He'd known. He'd just hoped she'd find a better path. Maya set down the photo. Outside her window, the afternoon sun painted everything gold, beautiful and indifferent. Somewhere, Chelsea and Derek were probably celebrating their social media victory. Somewhere, people were sharing posts about greedy landlords and small business struggles, never knowing the fuller truth. She felt small, powerless despite her properties and her bank account, invisible again, but in a different way. Her phone buzzed. David, Maria can meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. Community Center on Maple. She wants to do a press conference. Maya stared at the message. A press conference meant going public, fully public, exposing not just the restaurant but herself, opening herself to more judgment, more scrutiny, more voices telling her she was wrong for wanting to be treated with basic respect. She thought about her father mopping floors in buildings he'd never own, about 20 years of building something that couldn't be taken away, about the promise she'd made, and she thought about the young black couple turned away at 11 a.m., the elderly man overcharged for lunch. The business-suited woman told the kitchen was closed when it wasn't. It wasn't just about her. It never had been. Maya typed back, I'll be there. She set down the phone and looked at her father's photo one more time. Okay, she said quietly, let's finish this. The isolation didn't lift, but beneath it something hardened, resolve replacing doubt. Maria Gonzalez arrived at Maya's office the next morning like a force of nature, 40-something, sharp blazer, briefcase that meant business. She shook Maya's hand with the grip of someone who'd fought battles and won. Show me everything, Maria said, settling into the chair across from Maya's desk. For the next 2 hours, they reviewed it all. The security footage, the payment discrepancies, the customer reviews, the pattern of discrimination documented across multiple dates. Maria took notes rapidly, occasionally pausing the videos to study details. When the last clip finished, Maria sat back. This isn't just discrimination. This is systematic exclusion. You have documentation most civil rights cases only dream about. She tapped her pen against her notepad. The question is, how do we present this without letting them twist the narrative again? The press conference, Maya said. Right, but we need to be smart. Maria leaned forward. They've already painted you as a vindictive landlord. If we just show up and accuse them, it looks like retaliation. We need to reframe the entire conversation. James joined them via video call, his face on Maya's laptop screen. What are you thinking? We don't lead with Maya as landlord, Maria said. We lead with Maya as customer. This isn't about property disputes, it's about civil rights. We show the footage, present testimony from other affected customers, and demonstrate a pattern of discrimination. The lease violation is secondary. Maya nodded slowly. So we're filing a formal complaint with the state. Already drafted. We'll submit it the same day as the press conference. Maria pulled documents from her briefcase. I've also reached out to 3 other customers who left negative reviews mentioning discriminatory treatment. 2 agreed to come forward. 1 is willing to appear at the press conference. Who? Maya asked. Elderly gentleman named Robert Shaw. He was overcharged for lunch, the incident from your security footage. He kept his receipt. Maria smiled grimly. He's been waiting for someone to believe him. The pieces fell into place. Maya felt strategy replacing emotion, precision replacing anger. This was what her father had taught her. Channel it, document it, then dismantle it with facts. When do we hold the press conference? Maya asked. Day after tomorrow. Thursday afternoon. Gives us time to coordinate, prepare statements and notify media properly. Maria met Maya's eyes. This will get intense. They'll attack your character, your motivations, everything. Are you ready? Maya thought of Chelsea's laugh. Derek's dismissal. The Facebook post calling her vindictive. The isolation of yesterday. Sitting in her office while the world decided she was wrong for demanding dignity. I'm ready, she said. They spent the rest of the day preparing. David joined them, helping draft the formal complaint. Nicole helped compile supporting documentation, screenshots of the Facebook post, news articles, comment sections showing public reaction. Maria coached Maya on messaging. You're not angry. You're disappointed. You're not seeking revenge. You're seeking accountability. Every word matters. By evening, they had a plan. Thursday afternoon, community center on Maple Street. Press conference at 2 p.m. Footage would be shown on a large screen. Robert Shaw would speak. Maya would speak. Then they'd open for questions. Maria would submit the discrimination complaint to the State Civil Rights Commission at noon, 2 hours before the conference. The timing mattered. Official before public. One more thing, Maria said before leaving. Expect them to show up. Chelsea and Derek, they'll try to defend themselves in the moment. Let them, Maya said. The footage speaks louder than their excuses. After everyone left, Maya sat alone in her office. She pulled up the Lumiere Facebook post one more time. It had been shared over 1,000 times now. The comments were vicious, supportive of the restaurant, condemning her. But beneath the anger and the noise, she could see something else. People who genuinely didn't know, who'd been shown only one side, who believed they were defending underdogs against power. She understood that impulse. She'd been the underdog her entire life. The difference was she had the truth. And in 2 days, everyone would see it. Maya closed the laptop and looked at her father's photo. Almost there, Dad, she whispered. Outside, the sun set in shades of amber and rose. The isolation had lifted. In its place, purpose. Thursday afternoon arrived cold and bright. The community center buzzed with anticipation. Local news cameras, reporters with notepads. curious community members who'd heard about the press conference through social media. Maya arrived early with Maria, David, and James, carrying the weight of evidence in folders and flash drives. The setup was simple. A podium at the front, a large projection screen behind it, chairs arranged in rows filling rapidly. Maya stood backstage, hands steady now, breathing controlled. 5 minutes, Maria said, checking her phone. The complaint was submitted at noon. It's official. Through a gap in the curtain, Maya could see the crowd. At least 50 people. More arriving. And there, near the back, Chelsea and Derek, dressed professionally, expressions grim. They'd come. She'd expected that. Ready? Maria asked. Maya nodded. They walked onto the stage together. The room quieted. Camera lights flared. Maya stood at the podium, looking out at dozens of faces, some curious, some skeptical, some already hostile. Maria spoke first. Thank you all for coming. My name is Maria Gonzalez, civil rights attorney. Today we're here to address serious allegations of racial discrimination at Lumiere Bistro. She gestured to Maya. This is Maya Thompson. Last week, she experienced discrimination firsthand at the restaurant. But this isn't just about her experience. This is about a pattern of systematic exclusion. Maria nodded to James, the lights dimmed. The projection screen glowed to life. The security footage began to play. Maya entering the restaurant. Chelsea's body language. The conversation. Audio enhanced. Chelsea's words echoed through speakers. There's a really great diner about 6 blocks down. Much more comfortable. The room was silent. The footage continued. Derek's dismissal. Chelsea's laugh. Her final comment, the owner doesn't deal with complaints from people like you. When the clip ended, Maria let the silence hold for 3 beats. Then she spoke. That was Maya Thompson, property owner and investor, being refused service in her own building. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Reporters scribbled frantically. But it wasn't just Ms. Thompson, Maria continued. The screen shifted. Here's 11 a.m. same day. The black couple turned away. Chelsea claiming a 45-minute wait. 3 minutes later, a white couple seated immediately. Another clip. The elderly black man overcharged. Derek quoting inflated prices. Another. The young woman told the kitchen was closed when it wasn't. The evidence mounted, each clip time-stamped, irrefutable. The room's energy shifted, skepticism becoming shock, shock becoming anger. Maria called Robert Shaw to the podium. The elderly man, dressed in a worn but neat suit, approached slowly. His voice trembled, but his words were clear. I was overcharged by 15% that day, he said, holding up his receipt. When I questioned it, the manager told me I'd misread the menu. I knew I hadn't. But what do you do? I left, went home. Felt small. He paused. Then Miss Thompson called me. Asked if I'd tell my story. I said yes, because somebody needed to. Applause scattered through the room. Robert nodded and stepped back. Maya took the podium. Her hands gripped the edges, knuckles tight. I didn't want this to be public. I wanted to handle it quietly, through proper legal channels. But when Lumiere Bistro posted on social media, painting themselves as victims, I realized silence wasn't an option. She looked directly at the cameras. This isn't about me being a vindictive landlord. This is about human beings being treated as less than because of the color of their skin. In 2025, in our community, a reporter's hand shot up. Ms. Thompson, are you terminating their lease? Yes, for multiple lease violations, including breach of the non-discrimination clause they signed. Another reporter, Chelsea Young and Derek Martinez are here. Would you like to respond to their claims that this is retaliation? Before Maya could answer, Chelsea stood. This is a witch hunt, she called out, voice shaking. You're taking things out of context. We never discriminated. We were just... Maria cut in smoothly. Ms. Young, we have 4 separate incidents documented on one day alone. We've compiled testimony from other customers, and we've submitted a formal complaint to the State Civil Rights Commission. Would you like to explain the context that makes discrimination acceptable? Chelsea's face crumbled. Derek pulled her back down. A reporter turned to them. Mr. Martinez, do you deny the footage? Derek stood slowly. The footage is real. But Ms. Thompson is using her power to destroy our business over a misunderstanding. We're small business owners. She's a millionaire landlord. So you admit the interactions happened as shown? Maria pressed. Derek hesitated. I admit mistakes were made. But were those mistakes racially motivated? Silence. Another reporter. Ms. Young, you're seen in the footage laughing and making dismissive comments. Do you stand by those actions? Chelsea's voice broke. I was having a bad day. You didn't mean to discriminate. Maya's voice cut through, quiet but carrying. Or you didn't mean to get caught. The room erupted. Questions flew. Cameras swiveled between Maya and the restaurant representatives. Chelsea was crying now. Derek's arm around her shoulder, both of them shrinking under the attention. Maria raised her hand. One final point. This press conference isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. Ms. Thompson is not seeking financial damages. She's seeking change. She's reopening the restaurant space as a community culinary training program for marginalized youth. She's turning a place of exclusion into a place of opportunity. The room exploded with applause. Reporters crowded forward with questions. Maya stood at the podium, watching Chelsea and Derek slip toward the exit, heads down. The truth finally catching up with them. She'd done it. Not with anger. With evidence. With patience. With precision. Her father would have been proud. 3 weeks later, Lumiere Bistro's gold sign came down. Workers dismantled the elegant facade, packed up the furniture, emptied the kitchen. Chelsea and Derek had vacated within 5 days of the press conference. Their lease terminated, their reputation shattered. The State Civil Rights Commission launched a formal investigation. Local businesses quietly severed partnerships. Maya stood across the street, watching the transformation begin. New signs were being prepared. Second Chances Bistro opening spring 2025. Nicole appeared beside her, carrying coffee in paper cups. The contractors say we'll be ready for students by April. Good. Maya accepted the cup, warmth seeping into her palms. Have we finalized the partnership with the community college? Signed yesterday. They'll provide culinary instruction. We provide the space and equipment. Students get real-world experience, job training, and potential employment. Nicole smiled. Dad would love this. Maya's chest tightened. Granddad, she corrected gently. Right. Granddad. Nicole squeezed her mother's arm. He'd be proud, Mom, you know that. The investigation had concluded quickly. The evidence was overwhelming. Lumiere Bistro faced fines, and both Chelsea and Derek were named in the formal complaint. The media coverage had shifted, too, no longer portraying Maya as vindictive, but as an advocate for change. Robert Shaw had called her last week. Thank you, he'd said simply, for making me feel like I mattered. That was worth more than any property value. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Maria. NY Times wants to interview you. Human interest piece on discrimination in business. Interested? Maya typed back, only if they focus on the students, not me. The restaurant across the street stood empty now, windows dark. But soon it would fill with voices again, young people learning, creating, building futures. The marble floors her father might have cleaned would support dreams instead of exclusion. A young woman approached Maya on the sidewalk, hesitant. Early 20s, wearing a food service uniform from another restaurant. Miss Thompson? I saw you on the news. I applied for your training program. Maya turned fully toward her. What's your name? Destiny. Destiny Williams. The young woman twisted her hands nervously. I've been trying to get into culinary school but can't afford it. When I heard about Second Chances, I thought maybe... She trailed off. When do you start? Maya asked. Destiny's eyes widened. I got in? If you applied and you're committed, you're in. That's the point, Maya smiled. We're not looking for perfect backgrounds. We're looking for people who want a chance. Destiny's composure broke. Tears spilled over. Thank you. Thank you so much. After she left, Nicole leaned against her mother. You're changing lives, Mom. I'm giving chances, Maya corrected. They'll change their own lives. The sun dipped lower, painting the empty restaurant in shades of gold. Maya thought of her father in his janitor's uniform, smiling despite exhaustion. Thought of herself at 30, pregnant and mopping floors, making promises over a tiny life. She'd kept those promises, built something that couldn't be taken away, and now she was building something more, something that lifted others as it rose. Her phone buzzed again. Another interview request, another story wanting to feature her triumph. But this wasn't about triumph. It was about transformation, taking a place of harm and making it a place of hope. Maya finished her coffee and turned toward her car. Tomorrow she'd meet with the first cohort of students. Tomorrow the real work began. Tonight she'd go home and sit with her father's photo and tell him what she'd done with the buildings he cleaned. She thought he'd understand. 6 months later, Second Chance's Bistro opened to the public. The space glowed with warm light, filled with laughter and the clatter of dishes. Students moved through the kitchen with focused energy, their hands creating dishes their younger selves might never have imagined possible. Maya sat at a corner table watching. Nicole managed the front of house, guiding customers, supporting students. Destiny Williams worked the line, her movements confident now, calling out orders with authority earned through months of training. A reporter had asked Maya last week, "Do you feel vindicated?" She'd thought about it before answering. "I feel purposeful. Vindication would mean this was about me. It never was." The security footage from that day had been viewed millions of times online. It sparked conversations in workplaces, schools, community centers. People shared their own stories of casual discrimination, of being dismissed and erased. The visibility mattered, but the transformation mattered more. Robert Shaw sat at the bar finishing dessert, chatting with a student server. He came every Thursday, tipped generously, told anyone who'd listen about the press conference where truth finally won. Maya's phone rested silent on the table. The interview requests had slowed. The news cycle had moved on. That was fine. The work didn't need spotlights. Through the window the street bustled with evening life. Her building stood solid, no longer housing exclusion but nurturing possibility. Her father's promise fulfilled. Her daughter's future secured. Her community a little more whole. Chelsea and Derek had disappeared from public view, their restaurant a cautionary tale. Maya didn't celebrate their downfall. She simply moved forward, because that's what her father taught her. Don't let injustice consume you. Transform it. Build something better in its place. Let your power show not in how you destroy, but in how you create. The cameras that caught Chelsea's cruelty weren't just recording evidence. They were capturing a truth. That power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it watches, waits, and works silently until the moment it can dismantle injustice and build something beautiful in its place. Maya stood, leaving payment on the table, generous tip for the student server. She walked toward the door, pausing to touch the wall. Her building, her restaurant, her father's legacy. Outside, the evening air carried possibility. Tomorrow more students would arrive, more lives would shift. More chances would be given. Dignity isn't negotiable. Justice doesn't always shout. And those who try to erase others, they forget that someone is always watching. And sometimes that someone owns the building.